Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Catherine White. I'm the Executive Director of IFAMA. And our next presenter is Danilo Gambelli. He is presenting his paper on the target of 25% share of organic farming, challenges for the organic agribusiness. Professor Danilo Gambelli has been a researcher at the University of Palencia del Marche in Ancona since 2000. He teaches agricultural economics, forestry, environmental economics, and appraisal in the Faculty of Agriculture. His research focuses on organic farming, including organic food chain, scenario analysis, certification, policy analysis. Professor Gambelli has made significant contributions to the field through numerous publications and participations in international and national research projects. His expertise has advanced knowledge in organic farming and related areas, making a valuable impact on academia and the agricultural sector. Take it away, Danilo.
Thank you, Catherine. So, well, the presentation has already been done. I just want to point out that this research is in collaboration with Daniela Vairo and Raffaele Zanoli, two colleagues of mine. They are both from Università Politecnica della Marche. And what this is the presentation about? Basically, we present the scenario analysis for the organic farming sector. And why scenario analysis? Because we were interested in understand if the goal of 25% of organic land that is set by the farm to fork strategy was feasible, following the business as usual trend in organic agriculture or not. And we made some quantitative analysis, and we saw that was not the case. So we have to find out some new approaches for reaching this 25% target. So we developed this scenario analysis through expert. Our scenario is a scenario that is strongly participated. We used a lot of expert knowledge. We started to analyze a set of drivers that we supposed to be highly relevant for the organic sector. And then we developed our storylines of the scenarios that could lead to the 25% target, and try to understand the role that different stakeholders of the agribusiness could play under the different scenarios we developed. So very, very shortly, what is a scenario analysis? What kind of scenario analysis approach we followed? Here you see a definition going back to 1967, so one of the first studies concerning scenario analysis. And as you can see, scenarios has nothing to do with prediction, projection, probabilities. What the scenario analysis should do is prepare credible, plausible, internally consistent stories that can be reasonable and that might happen, but not necessarily they are likely. So we set a time horizon for our scenarios. Our scenario analysis part of a wider project, a research project, a European project, called Organic Targets for EU. You can see the link there if you are interested and you want some more information. Of course, it's about organic farming. And so we set the time horizon 2040. We use a normative scenario approach. That is, we forced all of our scenarios to reach at least 25% of organic share by 2030, according to the farm-to-fork target. What we are particularly interested in to understand is by which pathway we could reach this goal set by the farm-to-fork European policy. So why a scenario? As I anticipated before, we tried to extrapolate some non-linear trend using quantitative data that are available concerning the different development of organic farming in different countries of the EU. And so we had if you see here the green line, this green line is actual data, so the data that have been measured, recorded, and analyzed. And from this point of time forward, we made some projection with different hypotheses. And even in the most optimistic hypothesis, we saw that there was no way to go beyond 18% as organic percentage in the European Union. So we try to build up a new approach to understand what could be done of new for reaching this 25%. And we went for a qualitative scenario analysis. 4 steps of the analysis mainly. In the first step, we made some preliminary work. In blue, you can see what was done by the scenario team. The scenario team is me, Raffaele, and Daniela, the 2 authors. We selected the expert. We selected a preliminary list of drivers, megatrends. We studied a lot of the literature reporting from FAO, from the United Europe, from OECD, and so on. Then we proposed the big list of drivers to our experts. We made 2 rounds Delphi survey, asking to our experts to focus particularly on the drivers that they felt would be more impactful and more uncertain. We were not interested in something that we already knew. We wanted to focus our scenario analysis on drivers that could change directions in order to depict different futures, if you want. With this at hand, we prepared a big meeting, a scenario workshop that was held in Brussels, and a 2 full-day workshop where our experts participated very actively in the development of the scenarios, according, of course, to our guidelines, the agenda we prepared, and so on. Who were these experts? Basically, there are 20 people coming from 9 European countries with a very different background. There were some project partners. We are people from the academy, from the university, research center, not from the university. Many people from business, agribusiness in the organic sector. And the 9 countries, we have tried to cover all the different parts of Europe, so Northern Europe, Continental Europe, Mediterranean areas, and so on, each representing different stages of the organic development in terms of uptake of organic farming, potential for future development of the organic sector, and so on. And the results, here we have a sort of graphical synthesis of our scenarios. Our experts developed 4 scenarios. We asked them to focus first on a policy-driven scenarios, let's say. So scenarios that were mainly characterized by a strong intervention from the policy point of view. And other 2 scenarios that were more demand-driven scenarios. So in this table, you can also see the final 15 drivers that have been selected by our expert for making the scenario analysis. They are classified according to their typology, megatrends, supply chain, farmer perspective, and so on. And for each driver, we have defined 3 different states. For instance, the political climate towards organic farming could range from Green Deal is completely cancelled to the Green Deal is boosting furthermore. And we have a new Green Deal plus, let's say, in the next few years in order to give even more emphasis. Then there is an intermediate state, for instance, where the Green Deal is stalled, is maintained more or less the same as it is now. And of course, this game of making 3 states for each driver has been done for all the drivers. And then we have asked to our expert to try to link together in single scenarios different driver states with, of course, a meaning, a logic, a causal effect that our expert had to justify, discuss in sessions. And so we reached a sort of pictorial, let's say, image of the different scenarios. For instance, we can follow the green one, where all the green color covers the different states for what we have called green public policy-driven scenarios. The red one is the divergent pathway for organic sector, the yellow one, organic on every table, and the pale blue one, organic power from the people. Of course, I'm afraid we have not the time to go in detail in the scenarios. Very detailed narrative explaining the linkages between all these variable states are provided. Here we just can focus on two of them, the two most relevant scenarios, the green one and the yellow one. Here is a snapshot of the tail of the green public policy-driven scenarios. And I've tried just to summarize very much the narratives of these scenarios. And we can say that here, of course, public support is fundamental. Organic farming is seen by most of the farmers like the best option to follow. And there is a very strong intervention of public demand in terms of public procurement, which helps to stabilize the private demand, which is not particularly strong in these scenarios. It is interesting that under these policy-driven, green public policy-driven scenarios, the supply chain tends to play big networks to reach a sort of critical mass and have a sort of representative in the market. A complete different picture is from the organic on every table. This is a demand-driven scenario. And here, of course, what makes the difference is the private demand on the market. So there is a very strong demand for organic food. As the title says, everybody wants to eat organic here. And in the agribusiness sector, big business makes the difference. So the size matter here, the bigger the better. There is a trusted organic label that helps to promote organic food in all the markets in Europe. And retailers, processors are making a difference here. They expand a lot the range of product. They make a lot of product innovation. So they try to satisfy at their best the demand for the organic food. This big business has somehow pooled finance. So we have a sort of organic finance here, dedicated credit lines, specific financial products for organic operators, and so on. And here farmers tend to cooperate one with the other, trying to have a sort of larger critical mass in order to play with the big business in the supply chain with a sort of higher power. Once we have developed the scenarios, we have asked to our experts to try to understand the role that the different stakeholders in the agribusiness could have. For instance, in this example, here under the hypothetical scenario 1, farmers could play the role of subjects if they have a wide amount of stake of interest in that scenario, but low power. On scenario 2, alternatively, we could see farmers like key players if they are seen as having, again, a lot of interest and stake in the scenario, but also a lot of power. Of course, this classification of farmers, processors, distributors, AKIs, and consumers are here is not visible, but there is also consumer as a key actor in the supply chain. This classification was made with the voting procedure by our experts. Here we have some picture of the participated meeting. These are all our experts, and you see where they put dots where they think the stakeholders should be. And this is the final picture. And here is sort of summary of what we obtained. For instance, farmers and consumers have a sort of double role, both subjects and key players. The scores of the voting procedure is more or less around 50%, let's say, for both categories. And the real difference is here, processors and distributors, they are considered as key players under all the 4 scenarios that we have developed. A further effort we have asked to our stakeholders is try to understand. You put your head as a farmer or a processor or a consumer or distributor, and try to understand which would be the scenario that you would prefer to be in. For instance, farmers are supposed to prefer the green public policy driven, the green scenario we have seen at the beginning, and the ECI sector also the green public policy driven. Processors and distributors, they both prefer to stay under an organic on every table scenario. Consumers, of course, would prefer to stay in organic power from the people. So here is a snapshot of the voting procedure for the preferred scenarios. And now just some conclusion. We have seen that the farm to fork target can be reached by different pathways. We have explored a different path to go there. In all the scenarios, the policy support is, of course, a key element, but not always. We have seen, for instance, that the organic on every table scenarios can do also without a very strong input from policy. Processor and distributors seem to play a key role under all the 4 scenarios that we have developed. This colored table here is a sort of summary of the preferences for the 4 scenarios. So we see the organic on every table rules, then is followed by the green one, and the 2 other scenarios seem to have much less preference from the point of view of our experts. Next steps of our research, we are doing already some backcasting focused on country, a specific country, and on specific sector. For instance, for Italy, we are trying to backcast from the 2 scenarios, the yellow one and the green one, what under these 2 scenarios operators of the organic wine sector should do in concrete, in practice, in order to follow that scenario. And the same is done in France for, if I remember well, fruit, and on other countries for herbal crops and livestock. So thank you very much for your kind attention. And this is the last snapshot of the comments of our expert in the final session we held in Brussels. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So how did you actually select the drivers for your survey?
It was quite an extensive work, because we started from, of course, scientific literature about organic farming in Europe and motivation of conversion for farmers and so on. But we had to move inside a sort of big trends at the continental level. So we also used a lot of inputs from publication. We have a lot of reporting from the EU, for instance, concerning megatrends. So they take into consideration demography, climate change, gentrification of towns, and so on. That kind of general big trends were also taken into consideration, and some of them were introduced at the end in the 15 drivers we have used to develop properly the scenarios.
This, this whole topic of organic was a big focus of the conference this year. And actually, our case study for the student case competition focused on it and the policy of the EU and the farm to fork new Green Deal with the changing of the elections and kind of uncertainty about all of that. Do you think that if there's not the support behind the farm to fork funding, that it could jeopardize meeting your 25% goal?
Of our 4 scenarios, we had one that was strongly dependent on policy, the green one we showed before. The other one, of course, policy makes the difference. But for instance, in the market-driven scenario, one very important role that policy might have, instead of just putting money to farmers and supply chain, is to promote information, to support logos, organic logo, to make this kind of information circulate across people, which could be particularly effective and low cost, let's say. So if we change, if it should happen that according to the new commission, something will change for the support of organic farming in terms of financial supporting, I mean, nevertheless, some option to reach the 25% could be still there. But of course, most of the effort should be done by the private market. From this point of view, making clear rules for certification, brands, logos could be really, really very important. That could be still a very important role played by the policy.
Mm. Yeah, it's good. Audience, do you have questions for Danilo? Looks like Richard does.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation, Danilo.
Welcome.
Mine has to do with the emerging trend of climate change. Having visited Europe for 1 or 2 agroecological farms, I have realized that organic farming in Europe, the weather plays to your advantage. Because for us in the tropics, there's too much pests and diseases because of the high humidity in our area. So looking at the changes in climate, do you think that organic farming could be sustainable, can ensure food security? Because you cannot produce that much quantity. And if I look at it from African context, where we have this high humidity, if you are producing an organic and you really want to put follow organic protocols, it becomes very difficult to produce in large quantities because of high pest and diseases, and you cannot really battle them with. So that's I'm looking in the era of climate change. Do you think organic production, the 25% can be achieved, given the changing temperature and other climatic conditions?
Okay. Of course, I am not an agronomist, so I am an economist. Just I want to make this clear. But what I can say is that, for instance, we have seen 2 things that I think are relevant, at least in Italy, but I think the same is happening across many countries of Europe. In Italy, as you may know, Italy, together with France and Spain, is among the largest producer of organic foodstuff in Europe. We have nearly reached already 25%. We are around 18%. And many farmers have converted to organic farming, also due to the high, let's say, sensibility of conventional farming to climate change. For instance, for making a good organic farming, you are forced to do a lot of different rotation. Conventional farming in Europe and in Italy as well is much more oriented to monoculture or very little rotation. Now, the CAP policy is a little bit changing also from this point of view, but nevertheless, there is a strong specialization, which turns out to be with a higher risk for farmer. Because, for instance, if wheat suffer for heavy cold or heavy hot or heavy rain or no rain, and you are specialized 100% in making wheat, you lose completely your production for the entire year. If you have organic farming approach, then you can at least have different crops covering your income. This is one issue. Also take into consideration this other aspect that by now what we have seen that yields in organic farming are not decreasing by now. On the contrary, after let's say 5 to 10 years of conversion, usually yields in organic farming tend to increase a lot with respect to the initial years and tend to be quite comparable with conventional farming, particularly in areas where conventional farming is not very specialized. May I take an example of my region? I live in Marche. Marche is a small region, and we have a lot of small farm. And there, in the Marche region, organic farming is very much diffuse, very much, very many farmers go to organic because of two reasons. They can make a more sustainable production, they have a more diversified income, and they can sell their product with a very higher price with respect to conventional. And specialized conventional farming in north region of Italy, there you have very strong productivity and very high yields, but also very high risks, not only from climate, but even particularly very much in the recent years, let's say, from the price point of view. If you just look at what is happening after the war in Ukraine, the price of wheat has been going up and down continuously, particularly for conventional farming. And this is a very strong problem for many farmers in Italy because income is not more assured. Farmers from an organic producer, let's say, they normally have very stabilized commercial channels. For instance, in Marche, 80% of farmers producing organic wheat, they already have sold their production before they cut wheat in summer because they make agreement with processor which buy everything they produce in the field. So this is another way to consider the problem of risk, not only climate, where differentiation of crop rotation might help to reduce risk, but also reduction of risk from the financial point of view, let's say.
Okay, thank you very much. Catherine, can I ask my last question?
Yes.
Is allowed? Okay, so my last question is having studied, agroecology in the European context, I see subsidy plays a very important role in encouraging this organic farming subsidies. So in your analysis, did you consider subsidies? Should the government withdraw subsidies? Will farmers still be willing to go in for organic farming to achieve the 25%? Did you take that into consideration? I just want to know.
Yeah, yes, we took it into consideration. And organic farms, of course, payment per hectares, which is the main source of financing organic farming, is crucial. But however, we had some scenarios where these supports given by the CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy to organic farmer, can be substituted by higher price premium and higher access to market, and also by public procurement. So in terms of economic performance, what is really critical is not just yield, is not just subsidies, which of course are very helpful, but very critical is becoming access to market, stabilized demand, and high prices. High prices you have if you ensure high quality to the product, and if the consumers can understand the quality and know that the organic product is different. I don't say better, I just say differentiated by the conventional product. Under this condition, you can reach 25% also with lower support from the policy side.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much for the informative presentation, Danilo. Thank you all for coming in and listening, and thank you very much, all of our presenters that are here. Thank you for your questions. It's been great, informative morning for me. Afternoon for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.